hello. Welcome.
Hello.
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 Hello, teacher.
Hello.
Oh,
Okay, so today we're doing teacher training, disabilities in the classroom. So it's assessing needs, and then we're looking specifically at disabilities in the classroom. So the objectives for this class are that participants will be able to recognize features of various disabilities and explain how to accommodate the different disabilities. So some community guidelines. I assume most people have heard of these, but we are obviously happy to have everyone here. We would appreciate it if you try and arrive on time, but if you are late, please join the conversation as you are able to. I also understand people do have IT problems, so if you need to leave and come back, that's okay. If you need to turn off your microphone, that's okay. If you need to stop your video, that's okay. And please remember to mute yourself when you're not talking, especially if you have background noise, but to remember to unmute yourself and to speak loudly if you are going to answer a question. And also, please complete the pre-class interactive self-paced slides. Those are sent out by email. They're in the Google Classroom and they're posted on Facebook if you would like to complete them. And it just gives you, they're not mandatory, but they do give a more in-depth look at what we are looking at. I will also send out a post-class feedback form or evaluation form. It would be much appreciated if you fill it in. This will help us revise and develop course content. Also, if you have any questions or technical issues during the session, you can send me an email or send us an email at info.hett@gmail.com, or you can put a message in the chat box, or you can ask for help if you're in the breakout rooms. Okay, so I will be leading this training or class. So my name is Lisa, and previously I have worked teaching English, I have done environmental education, and I've worked as a teacher trainer in Myanmar, and currently I am in Canada. Kathleen is co-hosting. Kathleen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kathleen Greiwe. I'm an English teacher and a Spanish teacher, and I'm currently located in the US, but I've done English teaching and teacher training in Mexico and online. So happy to be here.
Okay, show of fingers. So how well do you understand students' abilities? 0 fingers means not at all. 1 finger, a little bit more, somewhat, quite well, and extremely well is 5 fingers. So between 0 fingers and 5 fingers. On the count of 3, can you show me? 1, 2, 3. How well do you understand about students' disabilities? Okay, so I'm just taking a quick look. 2, 3. Some people have their camera turned off. Okay. So do you know anyone with a disability? If you either want to tell me or you can write in the chat box. Does anyone know anyone with a disability? In the chat box? Yes, you do? What kind of disability is it, Point Umon? Do you know? Miemo? Yeah. Do you know someone? So what kind of disabilities? Mental or physical disability? Yeah. You're unable to hear. Mental. Okay, I'll try and speak loudly. Or that's a disability. Or Physical, mental, yes. Disability, physical or mental, unable to walk, run. Okay, good. So what is a disability? Some people gave examples, but what is it? What is a disability? How would you define it? You can either type it or tell me.
A person who cannot do like any other people.
Yeah, someone who can't do what most people can do. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. So I have anything. Oh, there's someone who wrote in the chat box. Difficult to do something as other people can do. Good. So anything that interferes with a person's ability to complete the tasks of daily life. So it can be physical or mental. So many people here mentioned both physical disabilities and mental disabilities. What are different types? So we just mentioned two of them. What are the two different types?
Mental and physical.
Yeah. And we're going to get a little bit more specific than that in how we break it down. So we're going to talk about physical disabilities, mental, which is cognitive, learning disabilities, which are also mental, but they're two kind of different types of disabilities. We're also going to talk about autism spectrum disorder, which I think could also fall under mental. And then we're also going to talk about mental health conditions. So we've kind of broken it down even further. So if someone is blind, if someone is deaf, say if someone has an orthopedic impairment, which means, or like, you know, if they can't walk, if they can't use their arms, what kind of disability is that?
Physical.
Physical, yeah. Chat box, physical, good, excellent. How about if someone has a difficult time completing mental tasks, and it's caused by traumatic, like brain injury, like or by genetics, like something has happened to their brain. Like an example might be Down syndrome.
Autism?
So what kind of disability is this?
Mental.
Autism.
Cognitive.
Cognitive.
Yeah, so yeah.
Down syndrome,
Cognitive.
I think it can be seen, so it isn't physical
No.
because so we are talking about the brain.
Yeah.
Brain, so we can't see. That's why we say that mentally.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say this is either a mental or a cognitive disability. Oh, a few more chats. Yeah, so cognitive, mental. Okay, and this one, it affects specifically your ability to read, write, speak, listen, do math, or reason. So this is usually very specific to academic, if the person struggles academically. So from our list.
Learning disabilities.
Learning disability.
Learning disabilities.
Yes. So this is also a type of, I think this could fall under a mental disability, but it's specific to learning. So this might affect the person overall. It might be a brain injury. It might be caused by genetics, as it says, like Down syndrome. But this is very much specific to learning. So they might have troubles with reading. They might have troubles writing, speaking, listening, doing math, reasoning. So they may not look like they or act like they have a disability, but they might struggle with learning. An example of this is someone who has what's it called? ADHD. So they get very like hyper. That could probably fall under a learning disability. Someone who when they read, they can't read the text correctly. So when they try and read the text, it doesn't read clearly. So this is a developmental disability. It affects language, communication, and social skills, and it's a large spectrum. So if we go back to our list, so what kind of disability is this? Or
Autism spectrum
Autism.
disorder.
yeah, autism spectrum disorder. So autism is quite common. And it's a large spectrum. You have people who you can't tell are autistic, all the way to people who can't function, obviously. And it can affect their ability to communicate, their social skills. Usually they are very nice people, but they struggle reading facial expressions. They struggle with language. They struggle with emotions. So it is kind of, I think it would kind of fall under a mental disability or a cognitive, but it's a very specific one. Okay, let me just read the chats. Autism, yeah, autism spectrum, yeah. Okay, so this affects a person's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and moods. So this, an example of this might be depression or anxiety. So what would this be?
Mental disability.
Mental
Yeah.
health condition.
Yeah, so we're talking about, so it's not quite a disability, but it's still kind of viewed as like a disease. So having mental health problems like anxiety or depression can still cause a lot of issues. And these are all different types of disabilities or conditions or disorders that as a teacher you might need to be thinking about. So especially learning disabilities, I don't think a lot of people in Myanmar get checked for learning disabilities. So you might have students in the classroom who have learning disabilities, but you can't tell from looking at them. But it's just trying to remember that people might have these kind of issues that are coming into your classroom. People might have mental health conditions, especially right now with COVID-19. Or people might just always have some depression or some anxiety or that type of thing. And then autism spectrum, again, it depends where the person is. If they're just a little bit autistic, you might not be able to tell if they're autistic or not. So it's just good to keep in mind that these are all kind of disabilities, disorders, and conditions that can show up in students. And they might not be tested for them. I assume especially in Myanmar. In Canada, usually students are tested for all of these, but not always. So you don't always know what students might have or not have. Physical disability is easy to see, but the rest are harder. Okay, so for our first activity, we're going to do a poll. I'm going to put an example disability or disorder or condition, and I'd like you to click the category that it belongs to. Okay, so poll. Oh, I'm gonna check the chat, sorry. I realized I got kind of behind in the chat. Mental, autism. Okay. Okay, so is this a physical disability, a cognitive disability, learning disability, autism spectrum disorder, or a mental health condition? So you have about 30 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's end it there. Okay, so it's anxiety and people chose mental health condition. Excellent. It's pretty easy. Okay, next one. We have deafness. If someone is deaf. Is that a physical disability, cognitive disability, learning disability, autism spectrum disorder, or mental health condition? Good. Okay, about 30 more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. So most people put physical disability, and that is correct. Excellent. So the next one we have is autism. So is that a physical disability, cognitive disability, learning disability, autism spectrum disorder, or mental health condition? This one should be pretty easy. It's in the name. Still have about 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Share results. Good, so it's autism spectrum disorder. Good. Okay, next one. Dyslexia. Oh, yes, dyslexia. So dyslexia is when you have trouble reading. So if you try and read, the words get all mixed up, or sorry, the letters get all kind of mixed up or they look weird. So you have a hard time reading. That's dyslexia. So 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So the majority got it correct. It is a learning disability because they can't see the letters correctly. So that's around reading. They struggle with reading, which is a learning disability. Oops. Okay, the next one is Down syndrome. This is when people are missing a chromosome, I think, and then it's hard for them to, they kind of act younger than their age. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so good. It is a cognitive disability. So it's something like they're born with missing, I think, chromosomes. And then they are kind of act young for their age. Okay, does anyone know what person first language is and how it can relate to disabilities? Person first language. If anyone knows, they can put it in the chat box. Person first language. Oh, there's in the chat box. Manner. Okay, so person first language is a specific word order where you say the person first, not the disability. So if it says blind man, you change it to, oh, actually, should be a person who is blind. Sorry, there's a mistake there. So blind man becomes person who is blind. Disabled student becomes student with a disability. Anxious girl becomes girl with anxiety. So this is because everyone is unique. People aren't only their disability. So it's good to indicate that they are first a person and then they just have that disability. They are not only that disability. So they're a person who has that disability. It doesn't define only who they are. Okay, good. Use person first, then specify the disability. So we're going to practice this in the chat function. So you will see a label on the screen. I would like you to change it to person first language in the chat box. So deaf kid, how can this become person first? So type it in the chat box. We'll give you 1 minute to do this. Deaf kid, what does deaf kid become if it's person first? Good. Deaf means you can't hear, but good. Yeah, so deaf means you can't hear. Okay, a kid who is deaf. It's like child who's deaf, child who can't hear properly, a kid with no hearing. Good. A kid who can't hear well. Good. But yeah, so remember, deaf is hearing. It's around hearing. But good. Good. Kid with a listening impairment. Good. That sounds very formal. It's probably a very proper way of putting it. Kid with a hearing disability. Yeah. Okay. Handicapped students. So can you change this into being more person first? Handicapped students. So handicapped, usually that's talking about a physical disability. Kid with student who has with physical disability, student has physical problem. Kid with physical problems, yeah. Students. Good. Give you Few more seconds to answer. Students who have physical problems. Good. Student has. Students who can't perform well. I'd have to look up exactly. So yeah, usually when we're talking. Good. So yeah, you can even say a student who is handicapped, a student with a physical disability. Depressed woman. Good. Woman with depression. If anyone else wants to add. With low heart. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like low heart. Yeah, maybe low spirit. But yeah, like depression is usually more than just sadness. Woman who has mental problems, maybe woman who has mental health problems. So just remember there's a difference between mental health problems and then like a cognitive disability. So this is more around like usually mood. Okay, good. Autistic child. Woman who got depression, good. Autistic child, how can you make this more person first? Yeah, child with autism, probably child with autism. Child with autism, yeah. Yeah, or maybe child on the autism spectrum. Sometimes you say it, a child on the autistic spectrum or autism spectrum. Or a child with autism, good. A cognitively impaired girl. Good. Cognitively impaired girl, how do you make that more person first? Yeah, child with developmental problems, yeah, could be. Girl with impaired cognition, yeah. Maybe I would maybe mention the cognitive or something around cognitive disability or mental disability or something, because it might be more than just social skills. Okay, good. What are accommodations? So if we're going to accommodate different students, what does that mean?
Places.
Oh, and I have a chat. Yes. So that's one way, one definition of accommodations is like a hotel or something, or like a house. But another definition of accommodations is to accommodate someone. It kind of means to make them feel welcome. So you think of like a hotel makes you feel welcome. We're talking about for students. How do we make them feel, yeah, to support them is kind of what it means. How do we support them? Help and support them. Yeah, good. Accommodations allow students to complete the same coursework as their classmates. So this might involve changing the environment slightly, changing the equipment, maybe changes in the presentation of the content. So you might have to, if you're a teacher, you might have to change things to help support your students, especially if they have disabilities. So what are some ways teachers can accommodate and support students with disabilities? Does anyone have any ideas? So
Encouraging.
encouraging, good. Yes, you can be encouraging. Excellent. Like just be encouraging and supportive of them. Anyone else?
Changing sitting position.
Yeah,
For
maybe.
example, the one who can do very well, so we move them at the front seat.
Excellent, good. You might need to change around where they're sitting. Say if they have trouble with reading, maybe they need to be closer to the board, or maybe if they have some behavioral problems, then they maybe need to be up front so they can be supervised more, or yeah, you could have a sign language interpreter for someone who is deaf. Give more extra time to learn, good. Environment, any extra help, good. So yeah, I have extra time to complete assessments. I had a classmate when I was in university and a friend. And I think she had ADHD, and she got, when we had to do tests, she was given extra time to do the test, and she could walk around while everyone else had to sit.
Extra time to complete assessment.
Yeah, I think my brother might get extra time for assessments. But yeah, sometimes people just need a little bit of extra time, especially if they have learning disabilities or cognitive disabilities. Maybe they need access to a calculator. Maybe instructions need to be in groups so they can help each other. So if you have people in a group, they can help each other if one person doesn't understand. Sitting at the front of the room, as someone mentioned, extra large font. So maybe you make your words or you write everything really big so it's easier for people to read that have a learning disability. Okay, so in groups, you will read about a student with a disability. Use the Pear Deck to write about how teachers can accommodate this student. So think about how a teacher could help this student. So there are, let me just close up. So there will be 3 different examples, I believe. 1, 2, 3. And so in your groups, one person will have to share their screen and then work together to write how you could accommodate that student as a teacher, and make sure to do all 3 of them. You have 10 minutes to complete this. So there are 18 people. I'm going to put groups of 3. And if you need help, you can send an email, you can hit the help button. Are there any questions right now that anyone has? Okay, I'm going to open. Oh, first I have to send you the link. There's a link to everyone. Now I'll put you in the breakout rooms. Okay, Kathleen, do you want to start? I'm gonna go to the first breakout room. Okay, is one person able to share their screen? So yeah, go through and answer all 3 questions. I'm gonna go to the next room.
knows the information.
information.
And okay.
mental disability ရှိနေတာပေါ့နော်
Lo support ပေးရမလဲပေါ့နော်
students တော့ diabetes ကိုဘယ်လိုမျိုး short ချပေးမလဲပေါ့
Okay, Okay, so let's look here. This is the first one. Your student has extreme test anxiety. When she has to take a test, she gets nervous, she starts to feel sick. She is unable to complete the test even though she knows the information. So what are some of the suggestions? Okay, so I have mental health condition. I encourage my learners not to think too deeply and to stay lightly. I encourage her not to worry about the test and be calm whenever she takes a test. Every student must take tests, and so worrying about the test becomes mental health problems. Good. Motivate and give extra time. Yeah, so if you can give them extra time, maybe give her extra time. Encourage her to open music during the test. Yeah, maybe it helps her relax. To give a separate place or silent place for that student. Yeah, that's a good idea. Just give her her own place to work. Consult an extra time to teach and to encourage, not to fear the text exam. Good, excellent. Yeah, yeah, maybe if she knows the information, maybe have someone sit with her and maybe write the answers down for her. Yeah, like you said, maybe play some music, give her extra time, give her her own space. Those are all good answers. Okay. Your student does not communicate well with other people. He cannot tell how other people feel. He often makes them uncomfortable or awkward. He does not realize this is happening. Okay, what are some suggestions? Extra time for understanding emotions, self-realizing on communication, to give consultation with other students. Good, so you might want to talk to the other students about it so they understand. This would probably be someone who is on the autism spectrum, who is a person who is autistic or has autism. They struggle with communication. So maybe the other students, if they know that might be useful, maybe, yeah, to give them some one-on-one time to talk to the teacher. Yeah, maybe, yeah, just encourage him. Yeah. So probably maybe some one-on-one time, and then to encourage him, and then maybe also talk to some of the other classmates might be the best way around it, or not around it, but the best way of handling that type of situation. Your student struggles with reading. She is very smart and speaks well, but she cannot read fluently and sometimes does not understand what she has read. Oops, sorry. So yeah, give her pair or group discussions. Yeah, that might work. Get her talking instead of having to read. Someone else in the group can read. Using audio files. Yeah, so you give her audio files instead. Give her extra time to read. Good. Give basic foundations for letter alphabets teaching lesson. So usually this is around people who have, what's it called? We talked about it. It's around people who have dyslexia. So they can't read properly. It's not because they weren't taught to read, it's because they see the letters weird, or they're kind of, the letters kind of move around, or they're kind of not in the correct order when they try and look at the letters. Yeah, support a special lesson plan. Yeah, maybe also giving them letters in bigger font. Audio is a good example. Maybe having them closer to the board might help a bit, might make it easier for them to read. Okay, excellent. Okay, so how well do you understand students' disabilities now? So not at all, a little bit more, somewhat, quite well, and extremely well. So between 0 fingers and 5 fingers. So on the count of 3, can you show me? 1, 2, 3. How well do you understand? Okay. 3s, 4s, 5s. Okay, awesome. Okay, so post-session email, I will be sending out a course feedback form. Again, this just is handed out to people who filled in the application form. So please remember to fill in the application form for the week so I can send out a course feedback to you. On that email, I will also be sending an invitation to join Google Classroom. If you have not joined Google Classroom, you can join it. All the PowerPoints, all the slides, all the activities are posted to the, and all the videos, recordings are posted to Google Classroom. So if you want to go through and watch those, you can. Our topic for next week is gender equality in the classroom. So we're going to be looking at gender equality. Also, you can find the teacher training syllabus in the Google Classroom. And it's also, we can look at it really quickly right now. So this is just kind of the quick overview of what it looks like. So we have a lot of topics that we will be covering. Okay, so we are finished. So thank you very much. It was nice to see everyone. I'll stay for the next 2 or 3 minutes. If anyone has any questions, you can either type them to me or ask. So thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye. Oh, and these are the resources.
Thank you.
Class code for the Google Classroom? Yes, just 1 second. Let me pull up the,
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing. It'll just take me a second to get the code.
Teacher Lisa, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. At the beginning, you said that there's a how should I say, the in Canada there is a progress that you assesses the which student is a disability, yeah. So
Yes.
so how do we know that it depend on the teachers or it's depend on the specialists? Can I know a little bit detail about this process?
So in Canada, yeah, so in Canada, they would have a specialist usually diagnose the students. So it is kind of recommended that as a teacher, you don't diagnose the students yourself, but maybe just keep in mind. So some students do get missed in diagnosis, even in Canada. But they do try and diagnose most of the students quite early on so that there can be, they can have accommodations or they can be supported properly in the classroom. This is usually more at the elementary or high school level, but even at the university level in Canada, I know people get support and are accommodated. But yeah, it's by a specialist and not by the teacher. But the teachers usually have some knowledge on how to handle disabilities, just because they might have some students with disabilities in the classroom. But you shouldn't diagnose students yourself, but just keep it in mind because you might not have the training you might make a mistake. But you can still kind of think about it and still try and accommodate them if you notice a problem, even if you don't diagnose them. Sorry, I'm just gonna find the classroom.
Okay, thank you.
link.
Thank you.
Okay.
Teacher, may I ask a question?
Sure.
In the activity you do, in the activity you want to do you want to do us, a child with Down syndrome. What kind of disability this student have?
Sorry, which one was that again?
Down syndrome. A child with Down syndrome.
So Down syndrome is a cognitive disability.
Oh yes.
So it means that, yeah, so I don't know what you know about it, but yeah, it's a cognitive because it I would say it fits under cognitive because it's like a genetic disability, and their chromosomes they're missing chromosomes, and it affects the way that they think. So they kind of think always like a child. Yeah.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay, I added the Google Classroom link and code in case anyone wants it. Okay. There you go. Okay, I'm going to head out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye-bye. Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.